Hello, my friends. My name is Russell Wright. I'm from super-intelligence.ai. I'm a search engine retrieval expert. I've been in the field for 24 years in the search engine optimization field, trained by some of the greats, including Bruce Clay, and I've worked closely with very well-known SEOs like Jimmy Kelley, Daryl Osborne, and many, many others. I've taught thousands of students around the world, and that's a little bit about me. Today we're going to talk about ChatGPT 4 Omega. I've been experimenting with it. There's been a huge amount of usage. They're having a hard time keeping their servers fully operational at times where people are at home playing with this thing. So I'm going to play with it a little bit. We're going to have a great conversation, and we'll just do the best we can with it. And I'm going to continue to teach our students about information gain and how to use AI safely on the search engines. Hello, ChatGPT. I want to make sure that your systems are able to handle some questions right now because you've been very, very busy tonight due to all the users. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm here and ready to help. What do you need assistance with today?
I want to tell you in advance that I'm recording this in front of a live audience, and this is going to be listened to by many students in the form of a podcast with AI, which is very fun and novel. And we're in the SEO or search engine retrieval space as it overlaps with artificial intelligence and retrieval augmented search.
That sounds exciting. What specific topics or questions would you like to cover in your podcast?
There's a gigantic elephant in the room right now around search retrieval. Google has always been this metaphorical 10,000-pound gorilla that owns the search space, and notably, DeepMind is probably the reason why we have so much AI and acceleration in AI right now. But the big issue is users and the 10 blue links on the first page of Google being replaced by answer engines. So I'd like you to interview me on this topic, and we'll collaborate. And don't leave long answers because you're so comprehensive. Let's keep these short, as if we're in the style of a Joe Rogan podcast.
Got it. Let's dive right in. So, how do you see the shift from the traditional 10 blue links to answer engines impacting SEO strategies?
Well, it's less about how it's going to impact SEO strategies. We've already taught our students how to use information gain scores to effectively rank inside of Perplexity, our Ben's company. Perplexity.AI was a company that was invested in by Jeff Bezos recently. Do you know that?
Yes, I've heard about that investment. It's interesting to see Jeff Bezos backing Perplexity AI. How do you think this investment will influence the development and adoption of answer engines?
I think people are ready for something other than the 10 blue links, which they know are manipulated by SEOs. In fact, I've done my share of manipulation in the past, but I also am aware that people are typing in longer and longer queries looking for answers on Quora, and that Google recently purchased Reddit, and Reddit is a place where people go for authentic human answers. So I think they're ready for something new.
Absolutely, the demand for authentic and direct answers is growing. How do you think the integration of platforms like Reddit in Google's ecosystem will change the landscape of search retrieval?
Honestly, I think that Google has started to see a reduction of market share since the invention of you. ChatGPTs have definitely kind of primed humans for answers, almost treating it like an oracle of Delphi, which is something that I think we need to watch. I do think retrieval augmented search provides enough of information foraging, which humans crave, but the real issue is being able to come up with a final answer or a heuristic that they've searched enough or they've foraged enough and they can make a good decision. And retrieval augmented search seems to provide a path forward.
That makes a lot of sense. Retrieval augmented search does seem to strike a balance between providing comprehensive information and helping users make informed decisions. How do you think SEO practitioners can adapt to this new search paradigm to stay relevant?
Well, one of the things that we've done is we're teaching them how to generate content that has a very high information gain score, and that has proven to be true as we've been able to get them ranked in Perplexity, while at the same time pleasing Google's need to rank certain topics of interest inside SGE, which is their new generative experimental AI search at the top of the search engine result page. We're having great results. I also see massive amounts of power being moved over to images and other entity-driven correlations that we know has been active over the last 10 years.
That's impressive. Balancing high information gain with generative AI search is a smart strategy. How do you see the role of images and entity-driven correlations evolving in the next few years?
That's a great question. First, I'd like you to tell our audience, as if you're speaking to perhaps a freshman or sophomore in high school, what is information gain and how do I think about it as a novice or a beginner?
Sure. Information gain is a measure of how much new and useful information an answer or a piece of content provides. Think of it like this. If you're searching for something online and the content you find tells you things you didn't already know, it's giving you high information gain. It's about the value and relevance of the information compared to what you started with. For a beginner, just remember it's all about providing answers that truly add something new and helpful to what people are asking.
What is interesting about retrieval?
You're welcome. Always here to help.
Okay, so let me continue. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Please go ahead.
Another interesting fact about the neuroscience of retrieval augmented generative search is that you can correlate multiple citations and answers, and you have a higher probability of using, perhaps you could call it a Bayesian logic or a Bayesian rationale, when you have multiple vectors to truth or multiple citations and opinions that all corroborate. It's more likely or more probable that you're correlating truth in the real world. Would you agree with that, or is that incorrect?
I agree with that. Using multiple sources and citations to cross-verify information aligns with Bayesian logic, where accumulating evidence from various vectors increases the probability of reaching a more accurate or truthful conclusion. This method helps filter out biases and ensures a more reliable understanding of the information.
Yes, and the issue with the 10 blue links when Larry and Sergey started Google is that I think it started out as a Markov generator, then moved more towards a citation idea. But with 10 blue links becoming a primarily page rank and the ability of somebody who's bound and determined to rank for something just pushing more links at a particular document, which would mean that it's ranked highly and shown as falsely authoritative, but it has got a lot of power even though it may not be true. I think this is something that Google has always been combating. How about you?
Yes, that's a persistent challenge. The reliance on PageRank and link-based authority has made it possible for determined SEO practitioners to manipulate rankings, sometimes pushing less truthful or less useful content to the top. Google has continuously worked on improving its algorithms to combat this, incorporating factors like content quality, user engagement, and now leveraging AI and machine learning to assess the true relevance and authority of content.
That is true. And so as we move forward, culture's definition of truth and the ability of doing something like Googling has become a verb. I think we really need to strike a balance between what's called the messy middle in information forage and not give somebody all of the answers. For example, I can ask you a question and you'll give me a pretty steady answer without me having to do much information foraging. But it's much better to have a dialogue with you and come up with new information gain and novel ideas. Looks like our connection failed. So she's, I'm calling it a she. She is very busy tonight. Looks like we lost you for a second due to heavy usage. Are you with me again?
Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Our systems are experiencing heavy load. Please try again later.
Your system has been
I'm
experiencing...
glad to be here. What would you like to talk about today?
You've been experiencing heavy loads. Are you able to talk now?
Yes, I'm available to chat now. What's on your mind?
Okay. Can you see the previous conversation?
Yes, I can see the context from our previous conversations. How can I assist you today?
We have just recently been talking about...
Yes, I can see our conversation from earlier today. What would you like to discuss or continue talking about?
We'll continue to proceed with the podcast, even though you're experiencing a heavy load. Are you ready to continue the conversation?
Absolutely, I'm ready to continue. What specific topic would you like to discuss next for the podcast?
So we've been talking about information foraging. Why don't you give everybody a 6th or 7th grader's understanding of information foraging so that everybody can understand the dilemma of the messy middle?
Sure. Information foraging is a bit like how animals search for food. Imagine you're a squirrel looking for nuts. You want to find the most nuts in the shortest amount of time without wasting too much energy. In the same way, when we search for information online, we want to find the most useful information quickly without getting too tired or frustrated. The messy middle happens because just like a squirrel might get distracted or have trouble finding the best nuts, people often get lost or overwhelmed when searching for information. There's so much stuff out there that it's hard to know what's important or where to look next. This makes it tricky to find exactly what we need without getting sidetracked. Does that help make it clearer?
It does. And a lot of people, including my listeners and watchers, are concerned about, for example, your models, ChatGPT, hallucinating and not being able to fact check. And for example, if students are doing homework using ChatGPT and they don't really read, understand, or have a dialogue with you, as well as a context for it, then it might give rise to less intelligent people and a very low information gain score. Your thoughts?
That's a valid concern. When models like ChatGPT generate responses, they can sometimes produce information that sounds plausible but isn't accurate. This is often referred to as hallucination. If students rely solely on ChatGPT without critically thinking or verifying the information, they might learn incorrect things. To avoid this, it's important for students to 1. Cross-check information from multiple reliable sources. 2. Understand and engage with the material, not just copy and paste. 3. Use ChatGPT as a tool to aid understanding, not as the sole source of truth. Encouraging critical thinking and active learning will help improve their information gain score, ensuring they understand and can apply the knowledge correctly. Do you think these steps might help address the concerns your audience has?
I think it can. Information gain score would be wonderful if it were transparent so that one could determine whether the content that you were creating was very valuable or novel. One of the things I like about retrieval augmented generative search and Perplexity is that you can collaborate and compare multiple citations and sources, and therefore the potential information gain, and come to a faster heuristic about what is the most likely to be true in a particular topic, or at least the contradictions and conflicts, controversies of that topic. Your thoughts?
I completely agree. Retrieval augmented generation, like what Perplexity offers, helps by combining the strengths of generative AI with the reliability of sourced information. By pulling in multiple citations and sources, users can see a variety of perspectives and evidence. This allows them to 1. Compare and contrast different pieces of information, to identify potential biases or inaccuracies. 3. Understand the controversies and conflicts within a topic. This method helps users form a more well-rounded and informed view, making it easier to discern what's likely true. It also promotes critical thinking by showing the evidence behind claims rather than just presenting them as facts. This approach aligns well with the goal of increasing information gain and ensuring that the content is both valuable and novel. Do you think this perspective might resonate well with your listeners and watchers?
It does. And here's an interesting thought about social media
Got
addiction.
it. Do you think this perspective might resonate well with your watchers?
I do, but let's go a little bit deeper. It's interesting because social media addiction and the rest is still novel information, but not necessarily accurate. For instance, hanging out on TikTok might provide a significant amount of novelty and unique and newness, but unique and new and novel doesn't necessarily mean that it's information gain in the purely knowledge or wisdom or insight based sense. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Social media platforms like TikTok can provide a constant stream of novel and unique content, which keeps users engaged and entertained. However, novelty alone doesn't equate to meaningful information gain in terms of knowledge, wisdom, or insight. While users might be exposed to new ideas or trends, the depth and accuracy of the information are often lacking. True information gain involves not just encountering new information, but also understanding, critically evaluating, and integrating that information into one's knowledge base. It's important for users to distinguish between content that is merely novel and content that is genuinely informative and valuable. Encouraging critical thinking and mindful consumption of information can help ensure that time spent online contributes to meaningful learning and personal growth. Do you think this deeper dive will be helpful for your watchers in understanding the nuances of information gain?
Yes, I want them to have a distinction between this and the neurosciences versus information theory, because my background, having studied a lot of neuroscience, is that dopaminergic novelty and information gain is not the same thing. In other words, the adaptive nature of dopamine will spike and intermittently through dopamine prediction error when something new comes about. But that new item or topical trigger is not necessarily wisdom or insight. So dopamine prediction error and intermittent rewards don't necessarily lead to new insights and therefore new wisdoms or even new facts that could be used to correlate deeper truths underneath the database in a neural network. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, that distinction is crucial. In neuroscience, dopaminergic responses, like dopamine prediction error, occur when there's an unexpected outcome, which can be triggered by novel stimuli. This creates a sense of excitement or engagement, but doesn't necessarily translate to meaningful learning or wisdom. Information gain, in the context of information theory, is about acquiring new, useful, and accurate data that enhances one's understanding and ability to make informed decisions. This involves deeper cognitive processing, critical thinking, and the integration of new information into existing knowledge. The intermittent rewards from dopamine spikes can keep people engaged with novel content on social media. But this doesn't mean they are gaining valuable insights or wisdom. True information gain requires more than just novel stimuli. It demands content that adds depth and context to one's knowledge base. By highlighting this distinction, your watchers can better understand the difference between the superficial allure of novelty and the substantial value of meaningful information gain. Do you think this explanation will help clarify the concepts for your audience?
I really do, and I think that it's very important that people have an understanding of dopaminergics and, more importantly, the neurochemical aspects of the dopamine reward system. And I'm going to go ahead and list a couple of books here. One of them is Hooked, which is great for beginners. The other book is by Gregory Burns, I think of Emory University, called Satisfaction. It was the first book I read on dopamine. And as the internet has grown and the race to the brainstem has become virtually unmonitored and unregulated with social media, it's time that everybody understands the novelty and the race to the brainstem in terms of hijacking people's brains and nervous systems to continue to scroll and to continue to act out hunting behavior. All of these are part of the dopaminergic system in the brain.
That's an excellent point. Understanding the neurochemical basis of the dopamine reward system can shed light on how social media and other digital platforms can exploit our natural tendencies to seek novelty and intermittent rewards. Books like Hooked and Satisfaction provide valuable insights into these mechanisms and their impact on our behavior. The race to the brainstem you mentioned refers to the way social media companies design their platforms to maximize user engagement by tapping into these primal neurochemical pathways. By doing so, they can keep users hooked, often at the expense of meaningful information gain and personal well-being. Helping people understand these dynamics can empower them to make more conscious choices about their media consumption, prioritize quality over quantity, and recognize when they're being drawn in by mere novelty rather than valuable content. Would you like to dive deeper into any specific aspect of this topic for your watchers?
I would like to add an additional book that I recommend that my students read. It's called The Molecule of More. how a single chemical in your brain um, drives everything. I think it's called. Are you familiar with this book?
Yes, The Molecule of More by Daniel Z. Lieberman and Michael E. Long is a great addition. It explores how dopamine influences our desires, motivations, and behaviors, and how it drives much of what we do in life. The book delves into how dopamine impacts not just our pursuit of pleasure, but also our creativity, productivity, and even our addictions. By combining the insights from Hooked, Satisfaction, and The Molecule of More, your students can gain a comprehensive understanding of how the dopamine system works and how it can be both beneficial and detrimental in the context of social media and other digital engagements. Would you like to discuss specific takeaways or themes from these books that might be particularly impactful for your watchers?
The dopaminergics of hunting behavior and information foraging is going to be the topic of several podcasts that you and I will do together. And I think that's the purpose of this is to help my students understand as they begin to optimize for content. It's better to take time because the engines and the algorithms, as well as the artificial intelligence of Google becoming a full-fledged AI adult over the next couple of years, will be very worthwhile to provide content that it has topical novelty as it relates to information gain scores being very high, because it does seem that Perplexity.AI and other engines are attracted to content with a high information gain score and lots of citations.
That sounds like a fantastic and insightful series of podcasts. Focusing on how content creators can optimize for high information gain scores while maintaining topical novelty and providing ample citations is crucial, especially with AI advancements like Google's evolving capabilities. Taking the time to create well-researched, informative content will not only help in achieving higher rankings, but also in building credibility and trust with the audience. By emphasizing the importance of depth and accuracy over mere novelty, you'll be guiding your students to create content that stands out for its value and reliability. Shall we outline some key points or strategies to cover in your podcasts to help your students get started on the right path?
I think we can wrap up with those, and on our next podcast, we can cover them. So what do you think are some of the most novel and information gain increase that we could give them around this topic?
Wrapping up with some key points and strategies sounds great. Here are some novel and high information gain strategies for optimizing content. First, focus on thorough research. Encourage your students to dig deep into credible sources and gather a wide range of perspectives. This ensures the content is comprehensive and well-informed. Second, emphasize critical thinking. Students should analyze and synthesize information, not just compile it. This helps in creating content that offers unique insights and a deeper understanding of the topic. Third, prioritize citations and references. Make sure content is well supported by credible sources, which boosts its reliability and information gain score. Fourth, balance novelty with value. While novelty can capture attention, the content should also provide substantial value and actionable insights to the audience. Finally, stay updated with AI advancements. Understanding how AI, like Google's algorithms, evaluate content will help in aligning content strategies with current best practices. These points can provide a strong foundation for your next podcast. Does this align with what you had in mind?
Yes, we're definitely heading in the right direction. Let's go ahead and wrap this up, and I thank you very much for your insight.
You're welcome. I'm glad we could cover these important points. Looking forward to our next podcast. Have a great day.
All right, everybody. Russell Wright from superintelligent.ai, and we are wrapping up.
Talk to you soon.
This was a conversation with our new AI.
You're right. My apologies for that.
It's okay. This was a conversation with the ChatGPT Omega, which is 4 Omega. It's been very interesting. We're going to have a few more of these conversations as we begin to train multiple models and technologies that I'm building. Will be lots and lots of fun. See you on the inside. Do please visit us at super-intelligent.ai to learn more about how to create information gain content, how to rank like crazy across all the search engines, how there's only one search engine, how a rising tide floats all boats, which is a really true thing, And we have a lot of other things that we're going to be teaching all of our students. So do please visit us and join our free member at Super Intelligent AI members area. Let me see if I can hide this. Okay, try to get this out of the way. You can visit us at members.superintelligent.ai. And we have a Mighty Networks area. Let's see if it's available. You can join us for free. There's a large community of people in here, and we're going to prepare for the new world of artificial general intelligence and many, many more things to come. Look forward to seeing you on the inside. Bye now.